Welcome, everyone. I'm super excited you're here for today's explainer because we're putting an incredibly popular product under the microscope, Wellness Core Wet Food. Now, you'll find plenty of generic reviews out there telling you if this is good for your average house cat. But you know what? They almost entirely ignore the massive size and the unique biological reality of the Norwegian forest cat. So today, we're going to explore if a dry-only diet is actually failing your large breed, and if this wet food is the solution we've been looking for.
All right, let's dive right into our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to cover 1. The NFC Hydration Challenge, 2. Inside Wellness Core Wet Food, 3. The hidden costs and trade-offs, 4. Wet versus dry alternatives, 5. A quick FAQ, and finally, 6. The final verdict.
Okay, starting things off with Section 1, the NFC Hydration Challenge.
9. That number represents the 9 kilograms that male Norwegian forest cats can actually reach. I mean, this is a very large, incredibly slow-maturing breed. According to the official Fife breed standard, they take 4 to 5 full years to reach this magnificent scale. And when you're feeding an animal of this magnitude, the basic rules of feline nutrition kind of shift. A product choice that works perfectly fine for your average domestic shorthair, well, it frequently fails at this 9-kilogram scale.
So here's a fundamental truth we need to talk about. Larger body mass equals a heavier workload on the urinary system. It's just a basic veterinary principle, but it's applied to a breed where it matters so much more simply because of their sheer size. Generic, dry-only diets often completely fail to support this heavy urinary workload. To put it simply, wet food solves a problem dry kibble structurally cannot, and that problem is moisture.
Just look at the stark contrast in moisture content here. Wellness Core's Pate wet food sits at roughly 78% moisture. Now compare that to a standard dry kibble, which hovers way down at a mere 8 to 10% moisture. This isn't just some minor difference, it's a structural one. That 78% moisture content means the wet food is delivering meaningful, daily hydration in literally every single meal. Kibble just cannot match that volume of water intake, which is absolutely critical for supporting the urinary tract health of a large breed cat.
Moving right along to Section 2, Inside Wellness Core Wet Food.
Let's break down the actual ingredient hierarchy. When we analyze the ingredient panels across their different flavor variants, we see a really consistent, clean, meat-forward formulation. Real, named meat, we're talking chicken, turkey, chicken liver, or herring, leads every single recipe. It's not relying on generic meat broths or mystery byproducts, which is huge. Following the real meat, you'll find named broths, like chicken or turkey broth, as well as pea protein and pea fiber as secondary sources. The big takeaway here? Real meat absolutely leads the pack.
But you know, what's missing from this food is honestly just as important as what's in it. The entire core wet line is genuinely grain-free with absolutely no problematic fillers. There's no wheat, no corn, no soy. Plus, there's no added carrageenan. That's a thickener that a lot of cat owners actively avoid these days because of concerns around digestive irritation. Finding this level of consistency across a full product line and not just one single premium hero product is incredibly unusual and a massive point in its favor.
All right, let's get into Section 3, the hidden costs and trade-offs.
We definitely recommend this for NFCs needing hydration support, picky eaters, and those on mixed diets. But who should probably skip it? Well, budget-constrained or multi-cat households for sure. Hitting the high caloric needs of a 9-kilogram cat with a 100% wet food diet gets incredibly expensive. The cost per calorie is meaningfully higher than dry food.
And beyond just the financial cost, there's a very real practical daily cost to your time and your kitchen space. Once you open a can of wet food, it has a shorter shelf life. It requires active daily preparation and dedicated space in your fridge to store the leftovers safely for a couple of days. If you're someone with a super unpredictable schedule, who travels often, or who relies on a free feeding setup where food just sits out all day, this wet food is kind of going to ruin that system. It simply cannot sit out safely all day like kibble can.
Next up, Section 4, Wet versus Dry Alternatives. If you do need a more economical, cost-effective sole diet for a large breed cat, dry food really remains the most viable primary feeding format. Based on our source material, the absolute best alternative here is Purina Pro Plan Sensitive Skin and Stomach Dry Food. This is an excellent route if you're treating food strictly as a staple diet rather than a specialized hydration supplement. It gives you a solid nutritional foundation without those heavy financial and prep burdens of wet food.
But hey, if you do want to use Wellness Core, let me share a really practical pro tip to help offset that high cost per calorie. Buy the larger case packs, specifically the 24-can cases, rather than picking up individual cans at the pet store. The per-can cost drops noticeably when you buy in bulk, and as long as they're unopened, they have a fantastic long shelf life in your pantry before you ever even need to worry about refrigeration.
Let's pivot to Section 5, our FE2. This is the ultimate question, isn't it? We really have to separate breed necessity from clever marketing hype here. So, do you strictly need to feed wet food to a Norwegian forest cat?
Well, the direct, honest answer is no, it's not strictly necessary. A high-quality dry food can absolutely work, provided your cat naturally drinks adequate water on their own. However, it is highly, highly valuable. Because of their massive body size, they have correspondingly higher water needs. Wet food is just a reliable, guaranteed way to increase their hydration to safely meet the intense demands of their scale.
Here's another incredibly common question from owners of the super thick-coated breed. Does feeding them wet food help manage their hairballs?
The answer is, well, only indirectly. Yes, better hydration supports a smoother digestive transit generally, which is always a good thing. But let's be super clear here, this wet food is not a targeted hairball solution. It isn't specifically fiber engineered to dissolve or push hairballs through the system the way a specialized dry hairball formula is.
And that brings us to Section 6, the final verdict.
The article we're exploring today doesn't just rely on random opinions. Its conclusions are backed by strict evidence tiers. Tier B manufacturer specs, the official FEEF breed standard, Tier C real-world owner reports, and cross-referenced veterinary principles from authorities like the Cornell Feline Health Center.
So, drumroll please. The overall rating for Wellness Core wet food is a solid 8.0 out of 10. It earns this high mark because it is a genuinely clean, heavily meat-forward food that successfully acts as a fantastic hydration-focused supplement or a partial diet. It does exactly what it sets out to do, and it does it without relying on cheap fillers or controversial thickeners.
But let's summarize the main takeaway here. This is not a breed-specific product. You shouldn't buy it just because you think it's magically formulated for Norwegian forest cats. The true value here is in the wet food format itself. That 78% moisture format fundamentally serves the massive biology and urinary system workload of a large breed far more critically than it would a smaller cat. Honestly, for most owners, the most practical approach is simply mixing this wet food with a dry staple to get the absolute best of both worlds.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Next time you walk down that pet food aisle, ask yourself, are you buying food based on the flashy marketing label on the front of the bag? Or are you making choices based on your pet's actual biology, their sheer scale, and their unique physiological needs? Understanding that difference is the true key to a healthy, thriving cat. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those right questions, and I'll see you next time.